Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your U.S. immigration related questions. Go ahead and put your questions in the comments now. I am going to, in the meantime, I'm going to cover a topic that I'm pretty sure you're going to be interested in. But make sure you put your questions. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the updates I want to give. Thank you so much for sharing the live. Thank you. Please go ahead, share the live with those who need this information right now. So, and thank you for the gifts. Now, yesterday I got a question, and I think it's important to talk about that question again. And it's have is it a good idea to go ahead and submit your applications? Well, the question was, is it a good idea to submit an application when it seems that Trump is pausing everything, right? And that's not true. I know that the rumors are running rampant, and a part of that is misinformation. There's a lot of fear in the community, understandably. But you do need to make sure that you maintain, that you remain informed from correct sources, and that you make sure you fully understand the implications of any policy changes that are happening. Now, immigration is still continuing. As I said before, we are continuing to get work permits, green cards. That is still continuing. The work continues. The USCIS officers' work continues. They're still processing documents. We're getting receipt notices, biometrics notices. So it is still continuing as as it was before. But yes, we are facing challenges, of course. It's obvious based on the various behind the scenes policy changes that we're seeing. There may be potential changes with processing times based on now the delay to be go back to looking at fraud detection at the USCIS and at the embassies. That's going to take more time, and they're doing social media vetting. But it does not mean that everything has stopped, and it doesn't mean that you should not continue to seek protection, get your status, legalize your status here in the US. If you qualify for immigration relief under the law, you can apply and get this relief. And it is much better for you to go ahead and apply for relief you qualify for than to risk being detained. What I am seeing is that those who are detained are facing even harder challenges, because being locked up, having no access to your documents, easy access to your documents, being subjected to possibly expedited removal, and possibly not having that relief going through the court system is going to leave you more vulnerable than if you go forward, check what you qualify for, and then get started on that. Be proactive. That's the key to making your situation less complicated, making sure that you're mitigating your circumstances, the risk involved. It's to be proactive, not necessarily reactive, right? Yes, you have to be reactive if it comes down to that, if you are detained, but be proactive before you have to be reactive. When I say proactive, I mean you make the first move. Empower yourself to know what you qualify for, then get started on it. Submit those applications on your terms with the information that you have. For example, we are working with our clients who qualify for relief. We're working with them to build the evidence, to be able to present their case in a strong way where the government will know that they do qualify for relief. So has everything been paused? No. You still need to evaluate your options. You still can get protection from removal. There are ways to legalize your status here without the need to leave. But we need to figure out those circumstances before we can tell you what those options are and move forward with that process. So please make sure you make that move. We are here. My team is here. My attorneys at this law firm are here to help you to go through what your circumstances and figure out the best solution for you going forward. But we can't help you if you don't make that first move to call. You can also send us messages, DM us through TikTok, DM us through Instagram. You can send us through Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We have staff we are working around the clock to make sure that you can easily speak to us and get started. Right? We are really trying to rise to the challenge here, and I think I'm encouraging you to be proactive and do the same. I see a ton of questions coming in. And I know the topic I wanted to cover is protection from removal, but by answering your questions, we can go through some of those options, particularly maybe options too that are available where you don't have to get married. Because a lot of people ask, well, is there anything, is marriage the only way? No, it's not the only way, but you do have to qualify for options alternative to marriage. In addition to that, marriage isn't something you can just get up and say, I'm going to go get married to somebody tomorrow and get my papers, right? That would be called a fraudulent marriage, right? And fraudulent marriage is against the immigration law. So if you are not in a situation where you're in a relationship heading towards marriage, it's time to look at options where you don't have to worry about marriage. And that's exactly what we do too. We focus on those alternative options. All right, so let me go through. I'm going to go ahead, start with Instagram tonight, then YouTube, Facebook. Hi there, Karen, and then TikTok. Can your team help with the EB2 NIW? Absolutely. Give us a call. Let's start with the evaluation. Who had a terminated case can apply for work permit and Social Security? Appreciate if you answer. So if you had a terminated case and you were applying for asylum, you may be able to still go ahead and continue to pursue your work permit and your Social Security outside of the court. But it depends on your circumstances. Good night. If someone had a misdemeanor, can you go get biometrics for T? Great question. I would say this. When it comes to criminal offenses, you definitely need to seek legal advice. Don't assume just because you have a misdemeanor that it is not going to cause you problems, severe consequences in immigration. You definitely need to talk to us about what is happening, what misdemeanor, what charge exactly. We need to know the risk factors involved. Now, to get the T, you do need to do the biometrics. So if you're worried about having a criminal record, then going in for biometrics, is it going to possibly lead to detention? This is where it's important to talk to us about those risks. I have one of the old green cards from 1989. Yes, I'm very much aware of those. Can you help to get it renewed? Yes, absolutely. Give us a call and we can work to change that out for you. Good evening. I submitted my VAWA case almost 3 months now, and I haven't received a receipt notice. The packet was delivered successfully. What should I do? Yes, we are seeing a longer time to get the receipt notices. 3 months is about the time, I would say. So I would say 8 to 12 weeks. But go ahead and I know it's hard because you don't have the receipt notice number. You know they got it. So let me tell you, there are two possibilities here. We've gone up to 4 months waiting for a receipt notice. So you're going to have to see if it's going to come within the 4 months. The other possibility is that they may be processing your case, but it may be rejected and they're going to send it back. That's why it's taking so long. So I've seen that situation as well. But there's without the receipt notice, it's very difficult to track that. If you confirm it got there, it's really just a matter of waiting. And it's not strange that it is taking, um, over 2 months to get the receipt notices. How much is the consultation with you? So we do offer an initial, free initial evaluation, and that helps us to not waste your time and money, help us to determine whether it is something, whatever you're going through, whatever your situation is, we can assist you with. And then we go ahead and schedule a strategy session once you get through our initial evaluation. And that's $150 to talk, actually go through with one of our attorneys and evaluate your case further, to talk about what we need to do to get to that solution for you. How soon are you getting bona fide for T? So 70 to 90 days right now, so 3 months. Okay, so blessed day. Do you have an office in Orange County? We do not have, our main office is in Delray Beach. However, we represent clients in all 50 states and around the globe. And how we do this, we're very good at it. That's how we've been effective to represent our clients. We do phone and Zoom. We work with you by phone, by Zoom. So that is going to be the best way to get started with us. All right. My husband never filed his taxes in 4 years. Can he still sponsor me for a green card? So if he never filed taxes, the next question I have is, did he not file taxes because he didn't have to, or did he avoid taxes altogether? If he had to file and he didn't, that is going to be a problem for the affidavit of support. However, if he made too little, for example, and he didn't have to file those taxes, then it wouldn't affect him. But we'd have to then look at, well, if he didn't make enough, is he making enough to be your sponsor in the first place? Okay, so I see here, avoid paying. It's probably going to be our problem. They do require the most recent, at least the most recent tax return, and they ask if you have filed your most recent 3 years tax returns. If you haven't, they usually want an explanation. So you're probably going to have to look at your joint sponsor, but you're also going to, if it is a fixable situation, you need to make sure that they may have to go backwards and deal with that. Not to mention, not paying taxes can even have criminal implications, right? So you should have a real heart-to-heart conversation. I received a green card last month. Can I travel out of America and back in 1 month? This is the most common question I'm getting right now. It's also, I would say, one of those questions that is a maybe. I know people don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear maybe, right? But it's always going to be a maybe at this point. Me personally, and not personally, professionally, my colleagues, we have been very conservative about advising people to travel. Do you have to travel? Are you aware of your background or anything in your background that can cause you to have and be at an increased risk of problems to get back into the country? This is where really and truly, if you're concerned, you need to have a conversation in a legal consultation with an attorney to talk about that. Because yes, people are facing increased scrutiny at the airport. When I say increased scrutiny, it means they're putting people in secondary inspection. That means you're coming through, you show your papers to the CBP officer, and then they pull you to the side, send you to secondary inspection. And that can be nerve-wracking. Not to mention, you could end up from there to detention if they do find something in your background. People with minor convictions, minor offenses, some 20 years ago, having it for 20 years ago, it was resolved, are now still either facing increased scrutiny, questioning, going through secondary inspection, and some have even already been sent notices to appear or been detained. So it's a serious risk right now. So can you travel? Maybe. What I do want to be fair, and I do want you to understand your rights here. As a green card holder, you do have the right to travel. The green card gives you the ability to go in and out of the country with your green card and your passport. But the question is, do you face an increased risk that could complicate your situation, that could put you at risk, that could put your future here in the United States at risk? In that case, you need to take pause. So it's ultimately up to you, but I would say be very careful and make sure you plan ahead, make sure you evaluate your situation, your background, to see if there's anything that can raise a risk of problems coming in. Can I request a copy of my medical from USCIS? So you should be able to get the copy. It's probably going to be a little harder to get it from the USCIS. You'd have to go through the FOIA process. You can actually, though, do it go to the doctor that did it and ask them for a copy. Um, where are you located? We're in Delray Beach, Florida. However, we represent clients in all 50 states and the globe. Our clients come from all corners of the United States, and we've been able to represent them effectively. So go ahead and give us a call. My husband never filed his taxes, so I answered that one. I received my green card, so I answered that one. My husband doesn't pay, so I answered that one. Let's see. My wife started filing divorce, which takes 8 to 9 months. I wait for I-751 for 19 months. Will it affect you? Yes. If you are going through the I-751 process, and for those of you who are listening, if you're waiting for your green card through marriage, the I-751 may be the next process that you'll be going through. So it's important you understand what this is. This is where you get married to a spouse. And if you, at the time that your green card was approved through a US citizen or permanent resident spouse, you were married for less than 2 years, it means that you're going to get a temporary conditional green card. It's a 2-year green card. And then what they say is, over the 2 years, we're gonna, give you this conditional green card, sort of like probation. It's like a probationary green card. And they're going to then say 90 days before it expires, within 90 days before that 2-year green card expires, you need to provide us, apply to remove the conditions using the I-751. You need to jointly apply with your spouse and show us that you continue to be a bona fide married couple for the past 2 years. If you fail to apply jointly with your spouse, you fail to meet the burden of showing that your marriage, new evidence that your marriage continues to be bona fide, you will then be denied, and you will end up being referred to removal proceedings to have your 2-year green card taken away. So it's very important that you make sure you apply on time, that you understand the process, and that you make sure you're submitting the right evidence for this process. Now, in this case, this question, it asks, you're going through the I-751 process, you're going through divorce, is it going to affect the case? Yes. The reason being, If you're in a situation where you can no longer continue to jointly file with your spouse, you need to let them know by applying for an I-751 waiver based on the divorce. And if there was mistreatment, based on the mistreatment. And if you will face extreme hardship because if you go back to your country because of the life you've built in the past 2 years, you need to also submit the waiver based on that. There's no particular forms for this. It's just to submit the right evidence and then state on your form that you're applying for the I-751 waiver. If you do not apply for this waiver and then they call you in for an interview, or they search the public records and see you filed for divorce, then they could turn around and deny your I-751 based on you not proving the bona fides because there's a pending divorce, and based on the fact that maybe you couldn't show up with the spouse to the interview because you're divorcing. So it's very important you work on that waiver. It's urgent at that point, or else you're going to face, serious negative consequences as a result of not submitting that waiver. We do help our clients, and we have been successful at submitting this waiver for our clients, and that has saved our clients. So definitely, if you're going through a situation like this, you need to get assistance. Now, the other thing is, okay, it takes 8 to 9 months to get the divorce. The I-751 process, it can take 2 to 4 years. So you may have time to get the divorce decree, but here's the deal. By submitting the waiver showing the divorce is pending, they could give you extra time to submit the final divorce decree. Because if you can't submit the final divorce decree, you will be denied. But if they know through the waiver that a divorce is pending, they tend to either do a request for evidence for the final divorce, which you want, because you want to provide them to that with the divorce papers, or if at the interview you can show them that you're applying for the waiver, then they'll give you more time to submit the divorce decree. If your interview is tomorrow and you never submitted a waiver request, you need to make sure that at the interview you state very clearly to the officer that you intend to file for a waiver or waivers based on divorce, mistreatment, or extreme hardship. The officer can accept a waiver verbally. They'll make note of it on the record, and then they'll treat it as such at the interview. So that's the last resort. If you're listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, I have my interview tomorrow and I never submitted a waiver, then make sure you make that very clear at the interview. Get an attorney. Let it be very clear, then get an attorney to help you to follow up. All right. My son has his green card since 2009, so I don't see the rest of the question. Can someone apply for citizenship if you had a problem with the law in 2011? So whenever it comes to offenses in the past, it's very important that you consult an immigration attorney. We can certainly advise you on this, but the reason why this is not a yes, no question is because it depends. Even very minor offenses can cause someone to be deportable. Yes, a misdemeanor can result in deportation. It depends on the facts in your case. It depends on the state laws. It depends on what the charges were. So we would have to look at that. Now, for citizenship, if you had an offense in the past, usually for citizenship, they look back at the past 5 years. But is this a problem with the law? How severe was it? Because what may happen is you end up going to the interview thinking this was in 2011, this was 14 years ago. There's no way it's going to affect me. You go in there, and then the officer says, wait, because they've already pulled up your record too. They know it's there. And they can look and say, well, as a matter of fact, we're denying you because you should not even have kept your green card. You should have been deported instead. So instead of giving you citizenship, we're going to put you in removal. That has happened, that can happen, but it depends on what the problem with the law was. Then we'd be able to advise. On the other side, it may be a situation where it really was super minor, right? Something that is in the past, it does no longer reflects on your good moral character and is a non-issue. If that is the case, the officer is going to look at the past 5 years and say, okay, you've had good moral character in the past 5 years, you're good to go, congratulations. Of course, you meet all the other requirements. Can my baby father, who just got a divorce last month, marry me to get a green card any time? So keep in mind that you still need to be in a bona fide relationship. So I know, obviously this is your child's father, so sounds like you're in a bona fide relationship. But it can't be a situation where you guys broke up, he just happened to be getting a divorce, and you're like, hey, I need my papers, can you marry me? You can't do that, because even though he's the father of your child, it's no longer a bona fide relationship, and at that point you would just be getting married to him for the green card. That's not allowed. But if, say, after the divorce, you guys have rekindled your relationship and now you're looking at a future together, absolutely you can move forward with the green card process. They are going to look at that pattern. May have questions about it. They may have questions about you being together, then him marrying, then divorcing, then you marrying and getting the green card through him. That is going to depend on what your facts are. You have to be careful with that pattern, because those are the kinds of patterns they're looking out for to determine whether fraud has occurred or is occurring. So this is where it's important to get an attorney on board to go through your case to make sure that this is going to not affect you, and it's not going to be construed, or you're not going to be accused of anything like fraud, because that's one of the worst things that can happen, is you'll be charged with immigration marriage fraud. It leads to permanent bar. So get in touch with us. Let's talk about your circumstances, and then we can proceed. I have a disorderly conduct charge 2016. I got my green card on 2018. My citizenship interview is 5/12. So generally speaking, now once again, criminal conduct, you should always speak to an attorney, at least at a minimum. Disorderly conduct, just right off the bat, generally, because it depends on the statute, what's stated in the statute, what parts of the statute were you convicted under. However, disorderly conduct alone may not raise any issues of good moral character issues, right? Because first of all, it's outside of the 5 years. It happened outside of the 5 years when you are convicted. And disorderly conduct may not rise to the level of like a crime that is going to, reflect badly on your good moral character. But this is general information. It's not personalized legal advice. So this is where you definitely need to talk to an attorney. Your interview is in 2 weeks. Make sure you definitely sit down and talk about this. It's right around the corner, so you want to get good advice. How long does VAWA take? So there are stages to VAWA. The good thing about VAWA is that it allows you to get relief even before you get the green card, and protection before you get to the green card. But what happens in the cases that we apply for is we go ahead and submit your applications. your work permit, adjustment of status for the green card. You get prima facie about 2 to 3 months. Then at about the 6 to 12 month mark, the work permit and travel document comes, as well as your social security number. And then you can continue to renew that. Right now, they're still issuing 5 year work permits. And so you may not need to renew it, but if they do shorten the time, you would then renew it until they make a decision on the VAWA. VAWA decisions are taking 2.5 to 3 years. And then right after and then you get another work permit and more protection to continue to stay here in the US under the VAWA approval. But what's happening is while that VAWA approval, it's called deferred action, the protection is going on, you then also get to go ahead and get your green card within about 6 to 12 months after that. So they process you for the green card. If someone had a misdemeanor, can you go to get a biometrics for the T? So I talked about that. Definitely seek legal advice. It depends on what the misdemeanor is about. Right now, we're seeing people being detained by ICE for things like driving without a license, just driving in general, just DUIs, driving, even if you have your license and you get stopped, you're being detained now for not even just not having your legal status. So this goes to show that even a minor misdemeanor can cause a lot of problems, and you want to get legal advice about that. The thing about it is the biometrics is required for the T. If you don't show up for the biometrics, they're gonna deny your T visa, and then you're left in a even more vulnerable position. Thanks so much, everybody, for the love. Go ahead, share the live, tap the screen on TikTok so that other people are able to see this and know that they can ask questions and they can get information that can empower them through their immigration journey. How can I prove citizenship for my spouse when applying for VAWA if I don't have a copy of his birth certificate? So that's a great question. So we've found creative ways. Now you just need to show credible evidence of their citizenship. So, for example, even if their social media says born in Kentucky, if they have voters registration, if they had a passport, those, if they have any kind of documentation that implies strongly implies US citizenship, that can be used even on your marriage certificate. So, for example, in Florida, you have to present your identification, and based on your identification, they put in there where the spouse was born, and that could be a way to show that they were a citizen. When they look at the marriage certificate, they know that they have to give identification to confirm their place of birth, and so that tells them where they were born and that they're a citizen. So you don't have to just do birth certificate. You can show other evidence. You can show other evidence that strongly implies. The last resort is, say they were naturalized. They're a naturalized citizen, so they don't even have any proof of their birth in the United States. Then what we have done is we have asked them to verify on their end, because they would have that record. So we would say, you do have the power to verify their citizenship. Please verify citizenship. And they will go ahead and do that on their end and then make a decision. So there are ways to go ahead and still show the evidence, credible evidence that they're a US citizen. I was not aware that LPR, we must update address with USCIS. Will this have a bad effect on my N400? So I noticed that the tone is definitely changing. That had changed, but I did see during Trump 1.0, yes, they would give people a lot of problems if they did not do the updates on the address. But keep in mind that they're now just starting to emphasize this again. So you may not have an issue. Um, it just depends on your circumstances. When did you move? But it really has not been enforced, in the past few years. But I do notice that that tone is coming back, the tone that you must do it or else. So just make sure that if you recently moved, you update that address. And then just make sure that all the addresses are listed in your N400. It's accurate. It's accurate disclosure of all those addresses. I have a disorderly conduct charge, so I answered that. I got annoyed a few weeks ago for an EB1A green card and resubmitted a bunch of letters and evidence. Um, okay, and I don't see the rest. When would I get a response? So they can take, I would say, up to 4 months to respond on an RFE like that, and maybe less, but I'd say 4 months. It could even go over. My partner and I separated because of domestic issues. Should I get divorced before my 10 years? So if you have a 10-year green card and now you want to escape this situation, I would say this: focus on your safety, focus on your well-being. Divorce is your right if you want to escape the marriage. That's your right. Now, if you have the 10-year green card, it should not affect your ability to go on to citizenship, because the 10 years doesn't a 10-year green card does not require you to stay with a spouse who is abusing you. Actually, no green card requires you to stay with a spouse who is mistreating you. That's why even when you're going from the 2-year to the 10-year, they give you this way out to say, do you need the 10-year because you've been going through abuse or mistreatment? So I say, put your safety first, put your well-being first. You want to divorce, escape abuse, get that divorce, and then also get legal advice at the same time. I've helped clients to go through this process while they're going through the divorce. They're going through the immigration at the same time, and it worked out beautifully. So if you have any, I would say if you have the 10-year though, it's less of a concern, but always talk to an immigration attorney in a private consultation before making any decisions or moves, just to make sure we know all the facts and we can advise completely. So you can always give us a call. All right. And I see more questions here on Instagram. So I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to come back to YouTube. I submitted a VAWA, so I answered that. Let me go right back to the bottom and see. Okay, so can you let me know? Can you let me know if you can help me, please? And I don't see the question. Okay, if I have my old green card, can I go and the DMV and get the I guess the real ID, the one that has a star on it to travel between states. So they implemented a new rule that those who had the old green card that went indefinitely, that green card did not expire. After 9/11, they came up with new rules that every 10 years you have to now renew it. So over time, everybody had to go back and get this green card that was every 10 years, that expires every 10 years. So, what I would say is you definitely now have to change out your old green card for the 10-year, the new version. And we can assist you with that as long as you do qualify. We'd have to evaluate all your facts, make sure you do qualify, and then get started with that. The DMV, they have their own documentary requirements, so you have to check with the DMV to see if they will still accept the old green card. They may now be aligned with the Department of Homeland Security, and they may not. But it's always a good bet to check in with them directly and see if they'll accept it as well. Um, After receiving a waiver letter from immigration, how long does it take to receive work permit and social security for VAWA? So I'm thinking you're talking about a receipt notice. So I'd say 6 to 12 months from the date of filing. A friend of mine received a waiver letter since January. She said she has not received her work permit. So I'm not sure what the waiver letter is, but what I would say is it's really 6 to 12 months is when you get the work permit from the date you filed it. If someone applied for adjustment of status and forget to notice he applied for a lottery before many years ago and didn't win it, is it a red flag in the application? I would say you definitely, if there's a question in there that asks about the lottery, if there are questions that ask about previous applications, you definitely need to make them aware of those previous applications because, unfortunately, officers are very sensitive to information being missing or omitted on the applications, and that can raise questions of fraud. So it can complicate your case. And I know in many cases that's not the intention, but the officers are trained to suspect anything like that. Any missing information, any omitted information can now turn into an escalating situation where you're being accused of fraud or misrepresentation. So if you need to correct information on the application, it's very important that you do that. Talk to your attorney about submitting the corrections. And then if you're called in for an interview, make sure you have that ready so that you can inform the officer before they start asking those questions that you do have updated corrections to make on the application. Can you let me know if you can help me? So I answered that. The question, okay, so I answered you already. Can I claim asylum if I overstayed 4 years? Great question. It depends. In most cases, you're facing an uphill battle after 4 years. The reason being there is a deadline of 1 year of your entry to apply for this, unless you can show that you experienced exceptional hardships or exceptional circumstances that caused a delay in applying within a reasonable time afterwards. Uh, so you also can show changed circumstances. So say you overstayed um, from your country. And then say something big happened there, some big political revolution that destabilized the country happened, and say that happened a month ago, and now you really can't go. You have a fear of going back because maybe you belong to a party that's now being persecuted there. So based on your political affiliation, maybe you had some kind of opinion or you supported other, a certain party that now they're facing persecution. Then, based on the changed circumstances, you could apply for asylum after the 4 years because circumstances changed now in your country that now allows you to qualify based on your political opinion. So that is, it depends. That's where you definitely have to give us a call and, let's talk through it in a consultation. Now, for those of you who do want to get in touch, we do have our our receptionists who are available 24/7 to answer calls, answer your messages. So go ahead and contact us. It's very easy to contact us. We are making it very easy to contact us. So contact us and go ahead and get started. We do an initial evaluation first, and then we jump once we know that we're not going to waste your time, we're not going to waste your money, that there are options that we believe we may be able to help you with. At that point, we schedule a consultation to go through more strategy, how we plan to move forward, and to answer your questions about your options. I'm 25 years old. I was told that I qualify for a T visa. Can I adjust my mother? No. Unless your mother is facing a threat from the person who victimized you, who put you through either labor trafficking or other types of trafficking. That's the only way, and you have to show that your mother has been threatened. So for example, while you were going back being victimized, if they said things like, if you leave, I'm gonna go find your mom and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna, they basically threaten your family members, your mom, your siblings. Then they can qualify then for the T along with you. So it's called a T6 category, the T6 category, but it depends on the facts here. Can I put my papers in? My husband doesn't file or pay taxes because he's on SSI disability. So there is a reason here in his SSI disability. It depends though on do they have other sources of income? If they do, then there's still that question. So definitely get in touch with us, get legal guidance. If not us, definitely another immigration attorney to be able to determine whether you're going to need a co-sponsor for your I-485, your adjustment of affidavit of support. But yes, if he has a reason why he didn't have to file, then it's just a matter of attaching a statement from your spouse saying exactly why he did not file his taxes. And if it's legally permissible for him to not have filed his taxes, it should be a non-issue. But here's the thing. He still has to make sufficient income. So if he's getting SSI, okay, he may be excused from filing taxes, but is he making enough to support you based on the standards in the affidavit of support? That's the next question. If not, if he doesn't meet the income requirements, you need to get a joint sponsor as well. Can I get married if my VAWA is in process? Great question. No, do not get remarried while your VAWA is in process. You know what's going to happen? You're going to get a big fat denial the minute it hits the public record that you remarried. So remarrying during the VAWA process. Now, if your VAWA is approved, and always before you go walk down the aisle again, make sure you get legal advice. If after your VAWA is approved and now you're waiting for your green card, then that may be a safe period. But being married before your VAWA petition is approved is a definite denial on your application because you no longer qualify for VAWA. The green card process was stopped. Is the process reopened back for applicants? I have my cousin. He's an asylee. He is 1 year and above. Can he apply now? So yes, they have paused asylee green card applications. Now, they have not stated that they've reopened it, or they've just stated they're pausing it to review those applications and review possible fraud. But I have not seen anything about them stopping the pause or what actions they're taking. There may be litigation. I'd have to check to see if a court has said they can't pause the green card process. So we'll have to see. I'll have to check on that part. But so far, I haven't seen anything like that. U.S. citizen parent sponsor adult unmarried children. Priority date is 2018. Case NVC. How long again for green card interviews? So if you're waiting for the interview itself, I would say 1.5 to 2 years to get the interview. Can I claim asylum? So I answered that. Can my US citizen child file for my brother? No. So a US citizen cannot file for an uncle. So that would be a no. She's 22 years US citizen. My daughter, can she file for my brother? No, a citizen can't file for their uncle. My spouse died 2 weeks ago and I filed for VAWA a few months ago. Can you advise me? So I know this is one of those, hard situations. Um, I'm sorry to hear about the death of your spouse. I know that VAWA means that you were probably mistreated by that spouse as well, but sometimes it doesn't make the pain any less. So I'm sorry for the situation you're in, and I wish you healing and peace going forward. Now, what I will reassure you about though is you filed for VAWA a few months ago before your spouse died. It will not affect the VAWA process. So you are okay there. It does not disqualify your qualification for VAWA. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked this question because if I'm going to tell you situations that a lot of people don't know about where they qualify for VAWA. So if you are divorced from a spouse who mistreated you, a US citizen or resident spouse who mistreated you, you can you can apply for VAWA to get your green card, get your work permit up to 2 years after the divorce. After that, you've lost your chance. So please keep that in mind. After the death of a spouse, you have up to 2 years to apply as well. If your spouse was a green card holder, and even if they got deported, they lost their green card status, you have up to 2 years to apply for that as long as the mistreatment happened while they were a green card holder. So that's also important information to know so that now you're empowered with this information. You can continue to move forward in your life and process. So since I overstayed 4 years, can I get married to my girlfriend and have an attorney process my paperwork? That is a possibility, but we have to know, is your girlfriend a US citizen? If they're a US citizen, then that definitely can be a way. Absolutely. But as always, we have to talk to make sure that you qualify. All right. Okay, so I see Nikki. Please look at my question above. All right, I'm gonna try. There's a lot of questions, but let me try to find it. So, Nikki, could you ask the question again? Because I don't see it. I don't see the question. Go ahead and type your question again. Okay. Can a USA citizen marry and file for a Jamaican man that has a criminal record in Jamaica? So it depends on what the criminal record is. Um, it's possible, but definitely get in touch with us. They may need a waiver. So we need to talk. You can always give us a call. The number is going across the screen and we can get into the details there. Can I go ahead and do my medical before getting the appointment to do so, just to have it ahead of time? Great, great question. And yes, it's not a bad idea. As a matter of fact, guess what? Now, if you're at the tail end of your process, you never submitted your medical to start with, that's fine. You're probably gonna get a request for evidence for it. But right now, they are now requiring the medical to be submitted at the same time as the application. So you do have to do the medical now, or they're going to reject the application. I entered the country and got myself in trouble after 2 years, and I pled guilty to a case that was not true, but I was just scared to go to jail, and I took a plea bargain. So this is where, as I said before, whenever you have issues like this, we need to talk. Because yes, it gets more complicated, and we're probably going to have more than one conversation, because when it comes to criminal conduct, no matter how minor, it gets a little more complicated. So we're gonna definitely, we would have more than one conversations to be able to advise you properly on it. I've done my fingerprint 2 years ago, but have not had any decision about my VAWA. So right now, I would say it's more towards a 3 year timeline. Do all immigrants need to register for the immigrant registry? No. If you came in with a visa, if you are issued an I-90 for coming in, if you are paroled, if you are applying for adjustment of status right now, or have applied for these benefits, if you're a green card holder, you do not need to register for this. Now, the focus of the registrations are those children who came in with visas who are turning 14 while being in the US. They have to register within 30 days. Certain Canadians who plan to spend more than 30 days. Um, and um, those who enter the country without permission, and they didn't apply for any of the adjustment of status. They haven't applied for that. Even if they're DACA, even if they are TPS, they have to go through the registration process again. Do all immigrants need to register? Oh, so I answered that. If my OPT extension is approved by USCIS, but I'm in India, I don't have a physical card, will that affect my entry to the US? So if you still have a valid visa to re-enter the US, that shouldn't be a problem. Are you visiting India? It really comes down to your circumstances at that point. Um, so we'd have to talk for sure. I just got married to a citizen. How long do I have to wait to apply for my wife to sponsor me? Great question. You don't have to wait. But I always talk about is it advisable to apply right away, right? Versus giving it some time. So I'll treat it with urgency for sure, but do not just throw papers at the USCIS and think just because you're legally married, it's going to work out. They are going to be scrutinizing these cases. They're going to be going through them with a fine tooth comb. And if you have too little information, they can deny you very quickly. Submitting too little information also means that at the interview, they're going to approach you with skepticism, right? So the officer is probably already going to have their own perception, and they're going to show it sometimes through annoyance or hostility. So make sure. So here's what I say: there's no time limit. You can get married today and file your papers tomorrow. And I've literally done that for my clients. I have filed 2 days after my clients got married. But here's the deal. Let me tell you why that was okay in that situation and why it may not be okay in another situation. So, say you went to Vegas, and you know what Vegas is famous for, right? It's the eloping. You go there and you met the person that you're like, this is the love of my life. You met them Friday night. You got there Friday afternoon, you met them Friday night, and then by Saturday, you were married and you were truly convinced this is the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. You don't know them. You never knew them before Vegas. Then by Monday, is it advisable to file those papers by Monday? Probably not. Why? Because really and truly, you have to start to get to know them, right? Even though you made the decision to marry them and it's legal to do that, now you have to build your life together for. You have to at least start to make a move towards that. You have to get a place together. You have to figure out your finances. How are the both of you gonna do that? And to do that means you're going to have to take some time, right? Depending on what you have going on in your life, it could take a month, it could take 2 months to get all of that together. So take the time to make sure you get it right. Don't just throw the forms at immigration without having attached evidence to show that this is the real deal. You know, so if you do it right, going into the interview, you may have, the officer might find it very interesting about your story, very interesting and very amusing. I mean, I've had a situation where we went into the interview and it was just, we were all just laughing and amused at how my clients met. So my client flew down to Jamaica, met met her, the guy, and then decided she wanted to marry him, and they got married. And then he ended up being here in the US with her. And when we went to the interview, because they were living together already, he had gone through a lot, they went through a lot together. So at the interview, it was clear that they were a bona fide married couple. So the officer was very amused at hearing that the US citizen spouse went to Jamaica, got married over the weekend, and came back. That was amusing. We were laughing all the way through the interview and down the hall, back out the exit. So, but you know why it worked out that way? Because the evidence was solid. So the officer was not worried about any fraud or anything like that, right? So the other case I had is the same thing. Now they had a relationship, they were living together for 2 years, engaged. So they had all their documents lined up. And then they just knew, okay, as soon as we get married, we want these papers filed because we want to get this move on. So the next day, after they got married, they just sent me the marriage certificate. We already had all the other documents lined up. So it was really easy. And within a couple months, my client got his green card. So, when you're submitting the application, you don't have to wait, but at least give each other enough time to file the documents with the sufficient evidence. All right. Thank you. We'll call you soon. Love your energy. I'm so glad. I'm glad I could give you, help you out there. Let's see. I have my VAWA filed now. After my marriage petition was denied, is my work permit still valid and one that I got from my marriage? It's no, what I don't want to tell you no, but usually if you did not transfer your affidavit, if you didn't transfer your adjustment of status to your VAWA, then that and your adjustment of status was denied before you could transfer it over to VAWA, it's probably not valid. So you'd want to apply for a new work permit based on a new adjustment of status. However, I'm not your attorney. I haven't looked at your record. So this is where it's very important to get legal advice. What options do we have fleeing persecution in the United States? Ah, okay, that's funny. I mean, not so funny, but yeah, I mean, it's funny we're in this situation. But I'm gonna continue being here to help immigrants here. Uh, you're very welcome for all the information I'm giving. Is it safe to travel? So this is definitely a big question, a common question I'm getting. I think I've answered this. So I would say maybe. You have, if you know, and you got travel document from VAWA, I would say a travel document is you're definitely on um, less solid ground than a green card holder, right? Because the travel document, it's just the officer coming back in still has a lot of discretion to deny you entry if they find anything in your background. So you have to be very careful with the travel document. And I say this, I don't know your circumstances. I don't know if you have a family emergency, but you have to really think about what is it worth it? Is the risk that you face traveling worth it? I've had clients who face risk and they've had dying relatives and they said it's worth it. They're going, and I totally get it. Um, so it just depends on what you're facing. Just make sure you get legal advice. You are fully informed. You make sure you have all your T's crossed, your I's dotted before leaving. Good evening. Keep up the great work. Thank you. There is good day. There is there any processing work permit for asylum seekers? So it's still 180 days. So they have been on time with that, the work permit. So 180 days after applying for asylum, as long as you applied on time. If I have a bona fide through T visa, do I must wait for the work permit to file for SSN? Yes, you have to wait for the work permit to get the SSN. What's the cost for FOIA? How long does it take? So we do charge for the FOIA process. We do FOIA for our clients, and that's included in their fee. But if we do need to run a FOIA before we can even take the case, we do charge a fee, but it just depends on the complexity of it, what it's going to take to do this FOIA. FOIAs are free at the USCIS, but we do charge for the labor to do the FOIA and to do the evaluation of the records that we get. How long time to wait for work permit for travel document after receiving prima facie? So if this is VAWA, you're looking at 6 to 12 months after the date of filing. All right. Thanks so much for the love. I appreciate it. I have to head out. I get my approved letter for green card. How long does it take? Congratulations. About 2 to 4 weeks to get that green card in the mail. Um, Hi there, baby girl. What do you know about writ mandamus? So the writ mandamus is where you file in federal court. Usually, if there's a delay, and the delay is it's really a long delay that you're not getting much explanations, or it's going to cause you harm. You can file mandamus to be able to ask the court to order the USCIS to take action on the case. It's not saying demanding them to approve your case, but to take action on your case. So give us a call. Go ahead and give us a call. We go through an evaluation process, and then we determine whether we can take your case for an appeal. Are you a lawyer? Absolutely. Yes, 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 yes. I have paid my dues. Believe me, I am a lawyer. So I went to the University of Minnesota, got my Juris Doctor there, and then went to University of Florida, got my master's in laws in taxation there. And then I've been practicing. So I've been practicing since 2013. So that's 12 years. And this law firm has been open for going on 10 years now. So trust me, it's been a journey, a very fulfilling journey. All right. Thanks everybody for your do you think sending a writ mandamus is safe with this administration? So it is. It depends on what I would say here is this has been what has been saving people from, for example, the Supreme Court has now issued a stay, meaning a hold on deporting Venezuelans to El Salvador. How did it start? It started with a federal lawsuit, right? So this, if there's any issues that cannot be addressed at the USCIS level, then this is going to be the recourse. This is that it has to be in some cases for you to be able to assert your right to due process. So, is it safe? I would say yes, it's safe. And it's safe because it's your right to be able to pursue recourse if you are not being given the rights due to you or the process that should be due to you. How can I speak with you directly? So I work very closely with my attorneys here at ST Law Office, and you would have to go ahead and schedule the attorneys here. What I do is the attorneys work closely with me. We do talk regularly about the cases, but you must go through the attorneys, do the consultation, and then I'm on the back end working on the cases. But it's gotten to the point where I have to focus on the cases to get them ready and out the door. And so I've been focusing my energy there. So as my client, definitely I will always be in touch with you. My clients can always say I've always been in touch with my clients in various ways. We have different modes of communication, ways to keep our clients updated, but you have to start with that initial evaluation with the attorneys that care just as much as me, that they're basically right by my side working with me to make sure that our clients are protected. With that being said, I'm going to head out for the night. Thanks again, everybody, for your time. I always like to spend the time with you, especially at the end of a long day. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Now, go to the link in the profile, go to the link in the description of the video if you would like to get in touch with us. The numbers going across the screen, numbers on profile page. We have 24/7 receptionists to answer calls, and then we get started with the evaluation process. So please do take advantage of that to get started. And make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow, because that's how you can follow me. You can know when I come on. So I can, when I'm on, you can come on and I can answer your questions. And then also share, because other people need to know about this information. They need to be able to see that I'm offering a resource, especially for those who need access to information or just to have general answers to questions. This is here to empower immigrants through their journey, through thinking through their journey and options. So thank you. Have a good night, and I will work to be back here tomorrow. So see you tomorrow. Bye bye. Thank you, Sida.